the American right, the conservatives, or general conservatives, as you would like to call them, have actually went out of their way to crap on a lot of subcultures. And you wonder why these young folks are the way that they are. You wonder. You wonder. But look at it this way, and I'll show you guys something if you are watching this live. AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, was streaming on Twitch in front of 500 or so thousand people. Now, you may look at that and you may say, it's a lot of folks. It is. Now, I'm not going to pretend like that's representative of the general populace or anything, because it's not. It's 500,000 people. But all she does is exist on a platform that I would argue is a lot more ripe for liberty than a lot of other people, as far as like the gaming community and gaming, that is. Now, of course, AOC is how can I say this without being so disrespectful? I don't believe that she is that knowledgeable. Let's say that. I don't believe she's that knowledgeable at all. But if you didn't think that she was a threat, you were sadly mistaken. She's representative of my generation. I believe she's only a year older than me. She's representative of my generation and younger. Now, you may think that's bad. I agree. I absolutely agree. But just because she's insane and you think, well, nobody could possibly listen to this woman, that's where you were sadly mistaken. They can and they have been listening to this crazy lady. You pushed her off like she was a joke. No, she's not. Well, you take it back. Her positions may be worth joking about. Make no mistake. But she herself as an individual and her influence is not something to take lightly. It's something that you should be paying attention to, because she's very influential, whether you like it or not, particularly with the younger generation. Move on to this real quick. If you're watching this, I remember Aubrey Huff was a more conservative commentator. He said this. This was on the 3rd. This was this month. No disrespect to Aubrey. I'd love to actually have a conversation with him about this. He says, grown ass men that play video games, ask yourself this: when's the last time you've been laid? Obviously, it's just a shot at people playing video games. But this is the type of culture that has manifest itself on the conservative side. We talk about how the leftists have been. Where they have rejected it for the most part, subcultures that a lot of young folks are involved in, and crapped on it. And again, go back to wondering why the young folk are the way that they are. This is a stupid position, make no mistake. But it's what I'm saying. In that it is stupid. You have to pay attention to this crap, because you are actually pushing people away from your philosophy or ideology or whatever it is that you are talking about. Why are you the way that you are? Because maybe it is the echo chamber. Maybe you think that you have the ideas on your side. Libertarians suffer from the same problem, where they think they have the ideas on their side and that's enough, right? You are the smartest person in the room wherever you go. And most likely, if you are a libertarian, I'd argue that you are, for the most part. And maybe they suffer, the conservatives, from the same exact thing, in that they think that having the idea is enough, but it's not. Again, goes back to the leftists. This is what they've done a very great job of doing: infiltrating culture and embracing that stuff and using it to their advantage. You wonder why they can get a bunch of people to bug dance for them every election cycle, more so every 4 years. When you talk about not every 2 to 4, more so every 4 years, definitely once the presidential election is coming along, they get all of these big names and blue check marks and influencers in some sort of way to buck dance for them, while conservatives have them. They're just not nearly to that degree. Now, you may not think this is a problem now, but it's going to be a problem in years and decades to come, because all of these young folks are nearly exclusively leftists. Now, all these older folk, they start passing away, and all of that stuff is going to start to become normalized. And like one of my colleagues says, one of my buds say, they're progressives, conservatives go on the speed limit. They always end up adopting their position because the leftists control the conversation. But they're allowed to control the conversation because you neglect culture. This is something that can apply to both conservatives and libertarians. You neglect culture. And that's why you lose when you do. That's why you lose. She goes, AOC and other politicians, I believe, that were involved in that were part of the squad, if I'm not mistaken, big Twitch streamers. Stuff that is ripe for a lot of libertarians and liberty guys, conservatives even, to get involved in that type of stuff. And they choose not to. This is why, another example, with the basketball thing, the whole shut up and dribble thing, stupid. And I say this as a guy that has done, long documenting their utter failures, the NBA. But they have their positions, and stupid as they may be, you don't neglect the culture. I would think you'd have something to offer them. Now, if they accept it or not, it is what it is. You don't kiss their behind. No. Don't ever do that. You don't ever have to kiss their behind. You don't ever have to do that. What I'm saying is that as you reject these cultures, these subcultures that every individual is involved in, you are creating opportunities for the left. And they just exist and they take it over. And you wonder why, culturally speaking, in America, you can be a Joe Biden supporter, nobody turns around or anything like that. You put on a red hat and you may have to throw hands with someone. You may have to absolutely throw some hands with some people. You know what I'm saying? Because you got on a red hat that said MAGA. How it get like that? Leftists don't care, they're at least the politicians. That's their use for idiots. So you can get your tail whooped and all of that sort of stuff. Y'all go hiding behind the police like they gonna save you. I think anybody would know by now that they not there to do that. They'll tell you to stay. They'll tell you, these politicians will tell your police officers to stand down. The ones that you thin blue line that you protect so much. As these leftists go burn your business down. And they do absolutely nothing about it. But again, don't give them the win. Make them work for it at least. Why people are like that. And one of my leading things that I talk about actually on my public speaking engagements, I talk about this all the time, and how every individual is part of a subculture, and that is your ticket. You've broken the communicative ice. That is your ticket to be influential to someone positively. You don't have to beat them over the head with it. You just have to exist. Embrace it. Don't push it away. Embrace it. This is why conservatives, for the most part, over the last decade, have been culturally irrelevant. Culturally irrelevant, they have been. No influence culturally. None. All the subcultures the leftists have, they got your education, they got your entertainment, they got all of that stuff. You've been utterly irrelevant in those fields, though I can make the argument that a lot of those fields are very ripe for the message. At least for liberty. Now, a lot of y'all conservatives only throw that word around there when it's convenient. You don't actually advocate for liberty. Topic for another discussion and maybe dedicated a whole damn show to it. That's all I'm saying, man. AOC is someone you should pay attention to because she's influential, as dumb as she is. You can think she's dumb as a box of rocks. Don't matter. She's influential. And there's a lot of young folk that are becoming part of your voting populace that listen to that chick. And all she is doing is existing more so in their culture. That's it, that they belong to. She got on Twitch and played a damn game. That's it. Conservatives let them control the conversation, let them control the culture, and then they wonder why they lose. This is something that could easily be resolved. Just got to embrace culture. You wonder why I stuck out like a sore thumb, why backwards stuck out? It's just because, again, we were part of something. You look at our music, obviously, we were part of something, right? The music was solid. And people liked it for the music, and then they just happen to hear me talk my head off about some nonsense. Or I don't obviously think it's nonsense. Something that may not have cared about, or they may have disagreed, or they may have heard capitalism be straw man to death. They heard libertarianism be straw man to death, and then they heard me, or they heard Alex, and then it's like, oh man, that guy's got a point. That guy's got an absolute point. Of course I got a point. But if I didn't exist in their particular subculture, the music, that metalcore, hardcore, they would have never been exposed to that. Conservatives, please stop letting them win. Libertarians, please stop letting them win. This stuff is ripe for this stuff. And again, you can be principled. This is where the leftists, more so libertarians, or even these Lincoln Project losers over there on the conservative side, they think that you have to kiss the behind of the leftists to get them to listen to you. No, you don't. No, you don't. You ain't got to do that at all. Joe Jorgensen and stuff, when obviously she got ragged on, I ragged on her as well with the whole Black Lives Matter thing, and we should support, we shouldn't support none of that. I don't know who he is, but nonetheless, I ain't supporting that organization. No, I'm supporting that movement that is going around begging to be accepted by white folk. Not into that. Not my kind of thing. But you don't have to get behind to be culturally relevant. Just present yourself and position yourself to be able to present that information. And you'd be surprised what all that you can accomplish when you indeed do that.